So hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's Small Business Essentials webinar. Today, we're talking about email marketing 101 with questions and answers. My name is TJ Daniels, and I'm the director for the Iowa Center's Women's Business Center. The Iowa Center's Women's Business Center is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration. You will receive an email after this event from my colleague, Katie Hinches, thanking you for attending today's session. Information on how to connect to our speaker, as well as a form to complete. Please do us a big favor and take some time to fill this form out. This information allows us to continue providing free educational small business owners in Iowa. Now go ahead and please take some time to locate that chat function on your Zoom screens so by asking questions and adding comments. One of the Iowa Center's main pillars is networking. So please feel free to introduce yourself and include your website or social media page so we could visit and learn more about your business and network. Alrighty, so there we're getting people logged in. So I'm going to go ahead and give a little information about today's speaker. Serving small businesses for 25 years, Kathryn Towner works with business owners and marketing managers, assisting with online marketing programs at all stages. Kathy helps the small business owner to find their voice, establish a clear message, and develop trust online. With her company, Win Communications, Kathy's expertise in the area of email marketing helps business owners realize the full potential of their connections. Through targeted content, the focus is on building relationships that result in business growth. Win Communication also provides website development, WordPress consulting, and social media marketing. In addition, Kathy stays involved in community groups and local business activities year-round. Currently, she serves as the past president for NAWBO Iowa, the local chapter of the Association of Women Business Owners. She has served for many years in communications and leadership roles with NAWBO Iowa, as well as the American Marketing Association, the Association of Women in Communications, the Iowa Society of Association Executives, and the Beaverdale Neighborhood Association. We missed the Beaverdale this year.
Yeah, well, they didn't have it. I missed it too.
No, we missed it not being
we missed
there.
It. Absolutely, yes.
So at this time, Kathy also serves advisory board for Can Play as co-chair for the annual Game for Good event. Kathryn, thank you so much for spending your time with us today, and the screen is yours.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. As you know, I love sharing information about, small business communications in any respect. And so I welcome you all here today. I have a passion for working with small businesses and business owners in general. So the Iowa Center has been a key player in all of that in the world we live in right now. So appreciate what you do there. So yeah, today I'm going to talk about email marketing as a piece of your marketing plan, and we'll go through some slides. I've got a ton of information stored and saved, and I'm connected to the internet. So really the world is our oyster right now, but I do think I'll start by going through some slides. Let's do a little presentation up front. And then to get our minds, oriented on the topic, and then we'll go from there, because I think there's questions that needed answers. So I'll begin with my slideshow. I'm going to share my screen. And here we are. So today we'll talk about email marketing, and it's now decades old, but what I like about what we're going to talk about is that we're going to bring the big business email marketing strategies into the world of small business. So for us, there are a lot of those sophisticated tools that we can implement, even at the small business level. So we can start by asking ourselves, what is email marketing? What is it anyways? Well, I like to call it one-to-one all at once. It's a way to communicate one-to-one, but with much more efficiency when you're doing it all at the same time. I do like to avoid words like mass or blast, because the mentality is different. With email marketing right now, what you need to consider is that you are one-to-one. It's about the individual. It's really more about relationships. So email marketing is a marketing strategy based on trust and relationships. That's what it does best. So again, maybe you're familiar with the father of permission marketing, Seth Godin. He also is the author of the famous Small is the New Big book from way back, which really applies here for all of us. So people do not buy goods and services. They buy relations, stories, and magic. And if we keep that in mind as we go through the idea of communicating to our audience through email marketing, that will serve us well. And then let's ask the question, why? Why implement email marketing? I think it's so important to understand why you're doing this as a small business owner. So the first thing that might come to mind when you ask this question is, how do I get new customers? How do I go about getting new customers through my marketing strategies? Email marketing is one way to work that in. Then you're looking at a database full of your customers. There they are, and how do you use that? So your customers are waiting for you to connect with them. They need to be told what you're doing lately. They want to know how you can help them. They don't sit around thinking about those things unless you communicate that to them. So to retain your customer, you might try using email marketing to make those connections happen. Another reason for implementing email marketing might be revenue. So if you are facing a time of year where you need new revenue, you need to build the revenue at the end of the year or at the start of the year, then build a campaign about upselling. Build a campaign that tells your audience what else you do, what else you can offer for them. And that's something, as I know for a fact, as a small business owner, we forget to toot our own horns. So make sure that you have in mind an email campaign sometime throughout the year that explains what else you do that your customers could purchase from you. And cross-sell, same thing. Where else can you find new business? And then share that through email marketing. Why implement email marketing? Well, branding. I mean, the world needs to know, how are you different from anybody else that does what you do? And make that distinction using a little email marketing campaign. You want to make sure that they know your vision and your mission and your values. Really, what is it that makes you different? And use your email marketing to convey that. And then finally, engagement. So email marketing is really good at roping someone in to become your champion. If you have a database full of customers that you are communicating with on a regular basis, use your email tracking to find out who's the most engaged, and then build a little campaign about how you can ask those folks to share the message, share the values that you have, share the mission that you have, and get more customers. So email marketing, it's more than a sales pitch. What it is it's education through newsletters, training programs. It's connection. It's staying in front of your customers when they might not remember you. It's about asking customers to make other connections and send them back to you. And it's notification. We're having an event. We're growing. We built a new website. Email marketing can be notification also in crisis management mode. If you have everything set up right and something goes wrong, your email marketing tool is your best friend at that point. So all of those reasons. What do we know? What do we know about email marketing right now? So for a long time, we've known that email marketing is a greater return on investment than most other, well, they say than any other marketing strategy. So as recently as a couple of years ago, the numbers were $44 returned on every dollar spent. And this is just the most efficient, effective marketing strategy out there. We know that conversions are generated by email marketing, even more so than social media. Social media is great for branding and connecting, but actual conversions happen once you've got that one-on-one, one-to-one through email marketing. Much better at converting. And then we also know that marketers are increasing their spend on email marketing. Every survey, every year, there's doubters and too many people send emails, too many emails in my inbox, but the data shows through surveys that it is still a growing industry. This email marketing strategy will deliver results. So what else do we know? Email marketing has best practices, just like every other strategy. There's things you want to know to do, and there's things you want to know not to do. Those things are almost more critical than anything else. And then there's the law, of course. So what's the law? Well, way back in '98, there was an opt-out required for certain mass emails, as they called them. Along came canned spam, which is the current law in 2003. And these things are required still to this day. You must have opt-out enabled in some capacity. So what that means is that your system needs to have it automated, or at the very least, someone hits reply. You need to be able to remove them from your list and not send them an email anymore. And if you do, that's against the law. So whether or not it's being monitored and followed up on, but in a big way, that's something to be aware of. Your sender needs to be legitimate. It needs to be a person from a place, as opposed to a robot from a foreign land. And then if you're sending out unsolicited emails, which it's not illegal to send unsolicited emails, but you do have to follow all of these things if you do. So if you're sending an unsolicited email to a list, to a whole group of people, you need to identify it as such so that people know that this is an email from a sender that is someone you don't know and you're trying to engage in and connect with them. So that's what canned spam was all about. It's been in place for almost 20 years, and we need to follow the law. More recently, we have great overseas and in California, we have some new laws popping up that are requiring consent if you're going to send emails in a commercial way. So if you're inclined to do email marketing beyond our borders, beyond our Iowa borders, or beyond our US borders, you'll need to look into and make sure that you're following those consent laws. So looking back over time, the things have changed. There's been an evolution in email marketing, just like every other strategy we use. Email services with HTML emails, the pretty ones that we all love to look at, came into existence back in the 90s. So we ask ourselves then, what's changed? What's different? Well, the mindset isn't one-to-many anymore. It really is about using the information you have about the people you're communicating with to send them something very much relevant to the individual. So you can take the data that you are acquiring through the email marketing system, and you can refine your message and target the individual needs and interests of the people you're communicating with. It's not just one-to-many, it's one-to-one all at once, remember. So what's changed is automation. And this is where we really can, we can beef up, ramp up, whatever you want to call it, our small business email marketing programs to some capacity with automation. The tools are out there. It's not that complicated. Things like a welcome message when somebody signs up for your newsletter on your website, and then a drip campaign that automatically goes out to those folks afterwards. Those things are easy to set up and can be accomplished for what it's worth for small businesses. So we also have, like I said earlier, the law. So data protection is in place. You have to be able to send back to someone all of the data you collect if they request it. And so some of what your email marketing tools are all about is that exact feature. Like they're the ones that are responsible for having protection of the data. Okay, so let's move into the elements of email marketing. Let's just review. Email marketing can be very effective for small business. We all know this. And what is the process? So big business email for small business. Let's begin, everyone, by planning our campaign, right? So this means the very first thing you need to do is you need to define your audience. Who are you communicating with? And not the whole world, right? So define, look at your customer list. What are the characteristics of your best customer? What are their interests? What are their purchasing habits? Where do they live, male or female, what age? And literally define your target audience so that you can better communicate through email. And use that definition of your audience to develop your message and create something refined and consistent over time so that they retain that information. And finally, once you've defined your audience, developed your message, create a calendar of some sort. Even if it's very basic, it will help you stay on task. How many times have I heard, oh, we started an email program, but we don't follow up. We don't do that anymore. So put it on a calendar and create topics, maybe seasonal, that you're going to write about, that kind of thing, to help you stay on your plan. And then the next thing is we've got a plan. We've got a plan in place. We have a calendar to go by. We need to create an email campaign. What do? Well, the first thing we'll talk about is audience acquisition. Where are we going to get these email addresses? Who are these people, and how do we get them? So strategies in place through your website. You can do point of purchase. You can send out direct mail and ask people to respond, perhaps using a QR code. Audience acquisition through events and sign up forms that at the events that you're maybe have a booth. That's a key strategy for most folks that do attend events. So once we have our audience, we're going to begin to build out a design. And this goes back to branding and message and values and mission. Your email design needs to keep in mind the consistent look with your website and your other things that you're sending out to people. Email design also needs to be simple, and it needs to be mobile friendly. So it needs to be responsive. It needs to be able to look good both on your desktop device and your mobile phone. We almost 3/4 of nonprofits I recently read, nonprofit audiences read their newsletters, for instance, on their phones. So you better make sure your newsletter is displaying correctly on your phone. The next thing we need to be aware of is deliverability, and this can get complicated. The idea of how do we make sure we get delivered to the different systems that are out there, and that's something that probably won't become evident until you start delivering. And then tracking and measurement. We want to always be sure to come back during our campaign process to the results, because what you want to do is you want to use the results of the previous campaign to refine and improve the campaign of the future. So look at, what information, what links did I use last time? Are people clicking on? What's the most interesting topic to the audience I'm talking with? What product are they most likely to click on? And then use that to narrow and refine and get more results the next time. So we've looked at plans and we've looked at creating the campaign. Let's dig in just a little bit to the idea of our audience. So I talked a minute ago about these things, but there are a slew of ways that you can acquire new subscribers to your email campaign. These are all valid and useful strategies to acquire new subscribers, and they really do work over time. You'll see how quickly this builds up. What I don't do personally is I have nothing to do with renting or buying lists of subscribers. The groups I'm a part of, we always go back to the idea of, are you getting anything out of that? Are you getting it for the money you spend? Are you getting anything out of that? And by sending to large groups of emails that don't know who you are, you might be putting your reputation at risk in terms of deliverability. You might be actually causing more harm than good. So I try to stay away from any sort of list purchasing. Instead, we build our list of subscribers through organic means, and people being interested in our business. When we talk about audience, then we're also going to start talking about, how to most effectively design an email campaign that is of interest to your audience. And we will do that through segmentation strategies, because if you can divide your list into different segments so that your information is even more targeted to those folks, then your campaign will have better results. One of the strategies you might use is behavior. For example, if you're sending a newsletter, maybe it's once a month, you can go into your data and you can find out which people have interest in different topics in your newsletter, and then use that to create a separate campaign that revolves around that topic and what they're interested in. And I'll give you an example. So one of my clients is the mall in Ames, and we do a Friday newsletter. It's to everyone on their list. Over time, we've learned, that this group of people likes fashion. Over here, this bunch of folks has clicked on our link to eat something or dining. So when we have a message that goes out about dining, if we send it just to the people that we tagged as interested in dining, the results go sky high. The open rates go sky high. So segment based on previous behavior. You can also segment on how long they've been a client. How long has that person, is it a new client, or is it someone that's been using your services for a long time? And then send different messages accordingly. Interest categories is kind of what I just talked about. And then we're moving on. So data, why segment? Personalization, we talked about. You want to gain attention, build trust. So email marketing is about relationships. It's about building trust and sending information that is personalized through segmentation, which means we're sending them something they want to know about. Then they're going to trust you going forward. A lot of times people do business with people they trust. And this is really important. I can't express it enough. So you can use all of the data for personalization in most of these tools. You can literally define which piece of data you want to pop into that email, and for instance, the business title or the area of interest, and use that inside your email. And that is part of the process of segmentation. So, all right, real quick, let's review the process. The process might be you acquire an email. The person opts into your list. They are interested in your business. They have signed up. The next thing that happens is they need to get that email that says thank you. They need to get something right away. They don't just give their email for nothing, right? Usually you've offered them a white paper or a subscription with specific information. We'll be sending you a weekly coupon. So that email, that welcome letter needs to happen right away, automated, and it needs to have a little more information about what they can expect going forward. And then you can set up a campaign so that person that just signed up for your list is going to get maybe 3 or 6 more emails over time at different intervals. So email number 1 might be delivered right away. Email number 2 might be delivered 3 days from now. And then email number 3, a week, and then 2 weeks, and so on. So you can set that up. You can have that working behind the scenes so that you, as the small business owner, aren't having to worry about that. It's all happening without any effort at all once it's set up. Okay, so what's next? After the targeted lead subscribes to your email campaign, then what? So it's like I said, you have to send the welcome email right away. Then you might send a reminder email not too much later if they haven't read the guide, the guide that you sent them yet, or tried the new product yet. You want to maybe encourage them to do that. And then you might send a third email, a bonus email. So you promised a white paper, and then a week later you send them another one, and then they're thrilled because they got 2 for 1 on what they signed up for. Or send a special offer. So that might happen next. And then segment your list based on their interests. So this is the thing. We bring them in, and ultimately the goal of your campaign might be more sales. And if that is the case, we're talking about an email funnel that starts wide and gets more narrow at the bottom. So it's an automated chain of email messages which guide and lead towards a desired direction in a non-invasive way. A lot of the research will tell you that you can bring them in through social media, you can bring them in through point of purchase, and then you're going to start to squeeze, you start to bring them even closer to a sale through email. So that's the key about email marketing, is to build the trust, build the relationship, and draw them closer to becoming your audience, your customer audience. So yeah, in all of that, there's definitely some things to look at in terms of on your website, and different kinds of forms that you can create to capture people's information. And so I was just listing a few of them here: order forms, survey forms, all of these things on your website can be used also to collect emails for your newsletter or your campaign. Just don't forget, if you've got a survey going out, or if you have some sort of contact us form on your website, the one-off contact form is used for kind of a different purpose, but you might also have something in the thank you for contacting us landing page that then says sign up for our newsletter. Just always have it in mind. So we talk about different examples of emails, the type of emails you might send out for a retail business. Might be how-to guides, coupons, special emails, something that is exclusively for your email subscribers. Same with service. You want to send them things that they wouldn't get anywhere else, and that makes them want to stick with their subscription on email. Some mistakes you might make: the web traffic to your website. If you're using website for acquisition, for email acquisition, don't forget you need to start bringing people to your website. So you can build that form and try to grab those subscribers with a white paper. But if you're not drawing people to your website to begin with, then none of your email acquisition strategy will work. So don't forget to bring that piece of the marketing package into the equation. On an opt-in page, which is where they're signing up, make sure that you give enough information to the subscriber that they know what to expect, and then follow through with what you promise. Those things are really important over the long run to keeping your subscribers happy. We talked earlier about looking at the data. Make sure that you look at your data. Who's interested in what, and how can you massage that to help your business grow? Okay, we all need to take a little more time at the end of our creation of an email to review our email, maybe send it out to a couple of people, have them look it over, so that we aren't making a mistake and sending out errors in the meantime. And then finally, the last mistake you might make is not sending any emails at all, which, again, I have a lot of friends who own their own businesses who talk about doing this and then don't get it done. So your subscribers expressed interest. If they signed up at your website, just make sure that you deliver. Make sure that you do have an email campaign going. Different types of emails to think about. So If you're groping, you're trying to figure out what is my calendar of email marketing going to look like? You might start by creating something seasonal. You might start by, when are the sales going on if you have products that are going on sale. You might create an email campaign around an event that you're going to either be at or that you're going to host. Of course, education, your campaign, most newsletters are focused on education. It's all about making sure that your subscribers learn and get something of value from having opened and read your email. Transactional emails are what you send when you have just completed a purchase. Perhaps you have e-commerce on your website, and email marketing can become a strategy that is very much integrated with your transactional email. When they get a thank you or a receipt, even from your bookkeeping system, that receipt could have a message on it that might encourage folks to upsell, cross-sell, or sign up for your email newsletter, things like that. And then loyalty, of course, if you have a way of building champions, you need to reward folks for sharing your information and getting others to sign up. So a loyalty campaign might be the next thing. Different types of emails, you might also think, well, these are, that's a definition of email like design, like a type of email is text versus HTML, and this screen just shows you that they can both be very effective. So you might be using HTML email design very effectively, but every now and then it would really stand out if you sent a personal looking message in just text form, and then sometimes those things get a better result. We can talk more about whatever systems you want to talk about, but some couple of comparisons of different systems that you can use. So MailChimp, I'm familiar. It is one of the few that still offers a free version if you're not sending over 2,000 emails a month, and if you're willing to not use all of their features. So it is one of the easier design tools to use in drag and drop fashion. So MailChimp obviously is one of the, it has a nonprofit discount. Most of them do. Constant Contact, also easy to use. It's been around a little bit longer, but they have given up their free version for this one that is about $20 a month. There's others. There's a million of them. Emma is out there. I don't know anyone that uses it, but they get mentioned a lot on my email marketing groups. And then Campaigner is another one, more sophisticated. There's also one that I like that is called Campaign Monitor. It has some automation features that are really easy to set up. So email marketing, what's the big business deal? What's different about big business email marketing that we can implement for our small business? We talked about autoresponders. We talked about being able to set up a welcome email and a drip campaign. Triggered emails. That's where you might send an email if they've purchased something. You might automatically send another email if they almost purchased something, but then didn't. So those things can happen through your website. And then accountability. You want to just make sure that you are doing what you said you would do and not abusing their data. So all these things can make you look like you're doing great work, almost like big business, but for your small business. So that is it for my presentation. At this point, I'm going to pause my sharing and go back to our screen to see if we can answer questions.
Just realized I was on mute.
Yeah, I was gonna tell you.
Here's a question. How do you recommend starting emails back up after a dry spell?
Oh, that is a common question, and I've seen it on threads. And the first thing to realize is that there's no harm, no foul. I mean, you just start. You can introduce yourself again. You can talk about the season. I've seen people use their business season to build back their audience, to say, look, we're in a new year, that kind of thing. I think the biggest hang up that it kind of sounds like there is that you're not worrying that you had a dry spell, so you don't ever start your campaign back up. I'd encourage you to just go ahead and get started. And on the technology side, on the data side, if it's been years and years, yeah, you're going to want to run that subscriber list through a service that can tell you if those emails are valid or not before you send that campaign, because over 6 months time, even a certain percentage of your list is just going to be invalid. That's just what happens. People drop those emails for whatever reason. And when you send an email campaign out to a list of subscribers and you get a high bounce rate because of invalid email addresses, that can work against you. That can start to cause you trouble, and the email service providers are going to look at you as spam and that kind of thing. So yeah, those things are worth looking at if it's been too long before you send an email to a list that dried up.
Okay, how often is it okay to reach out to your potential customer?
Okay, so I saw this quite a bit actually on your earlier list of emails about frequency. So what I learned in doing a little research last night, again, because things are always changing. Whatever was the answer 2 years ago is different now, but it does look like frequency is not, it's not something that's you can answer that simply. It has to do with your customer life cycle. So it also has to do with what's going on in your business or your industry. So for example, if you're in the business of selling cell phones, we know that that's a different life cycle. People aren't buying cell phones every day. So you're not going to send an email out every week, right? You want to keep in touch. You want to use education and all those things. But if you're in fashion, on the other hand, or most retail, you're going to want to test it a little more. I've read that people are very willing to receive fashion emails more often, any kind of retail emails. I would push those a little bit more, even more than once a week, depending on the season, because in that industry, things change often. I buy clothes, you buy clothes maybe every week or every couple of weeks if you're happy and lucky. But so the answer to the question of frequency, if you're a nonprofit, it might depend on what events are coming up. You might have a big event coming up and you need to send out a bunch of emails before that event. And then afterwards, you don't need to send that many emails. See, so frequency is something that is very trial and error, and it does depend on your customer life cycle.
Okay. What is a healthy conversion rate?
Well, conversion meaning what, right? So let's talk about that. We can look at conversion as just flat out being a sale, if you're in the business of selling things. So in that case, small percentages, I don't have a number in my head, but I know it's going to be it's going to be something in the small percentages, because email conversions in terms of converting someone into an active subscriber. So perhaps the goal of your campaign is to get people to click, then that is a conversion, and you're measuring that. So then your conversion is actually a click, and your percentage, a good percentage might be 5 or 6% that clicked. Now, of that 5 or 6% that clicked, if your goal was to get them to purchase, then your conversion is that measuring how many bought something of the people that clicked, or is it how many bought something of the people you sent the email to? And so regardless of what you are measuring, the best thing to do is to watch over time to see how it's trending, and then measure that against how you did it last time, and then make sure you understand everybody's using the same definition of conversion.
Okay, so before it gets too late, I want to know, what is the best email marketing tools, or which email marketing tools do you suggest? And maybe even a campaign example.
Okay, let's, let me see, what time is it? We have, okay,
It's
perfect.
12:40. I know this time has went so fast.
Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen again. Before I do, let me just talk. So tools that are out there, they're all going to work for you. Like almost anything that a small business Googles to find, email marketing campaign service, they're going to work for you. Some of the differences that you might find among them are going to be, is this super easy for me in terms of designing my email? Because I don't have a lot of time or knowledge and I just need to get it done. So that's why I said earlier, MailChimp is a favorite for a lot of people because you can get in, get out, get it done. It might not have the level of sophistication that someone who wants to refine the look, you're very specific about your design where you really don't want that much margin on the edges or those types of things. Or you want to have access to the automation that perhaps they aren't quite offering you at the level that you're subscribed. So that might be a reason to look elsewhere. And I suggest automation. I like Campaign Monitor is the one that I've started using for that kind of purpose, for personalization and automation. But again, most of them have a level that you can do that at. So it's gotten so these services are all a little more like each other over the years. But I do want to share my screen because I thought I could show you. So I'll go ahead and see if I can get to a sample. I can get out of this.
And maybe even while you're clicking through this is a question that I've actually seen a lot on this list. What is the best way to create a get your attention or grab you subject line? Like, how do you suggest?
Oh, what did I do?
Uh-oh, hold on.
Here we go. It's me.
Okay.
Yeah. I will address that in just a minute.
Okay.
Try to get back. I don't want to have to log in. Let's see if these are still logged in. It's not sharing, is it?
Well, it says you started screen sharing.
It says I am screen sharing, but it's not sharing. All right, so never mind. I'll just go. It says it's sharing, but it's not. So I'll just go back to talking. Yeah, it's not happening. Stop. Okay. That's too bad. I'm going to try one more time. Share screen. Share screen. This one. Share. No. No. Okay. Stop. Subject lines. Okay, so that's one of those that I would recommend that you do a little Google research every so often, because they change often. And I know there's a webinar I sit in on, a guy out of Florida, and he's got data that's up to the minute, worldview research or something like that. I'll send it to you. But the idea is that whatever it was that was the rule of thumb 3 months ago might not be the same now. And so and it also might be, who are your subscribers and what is the goal of your campaign? If your subject line, if you're talking about a service industry that, your goal of your campaign, let's say, is branding, that you want to be known as the expert. Okay, so this would be, I guess I'm using maybe me as an example. I'm in the service industry. I would use email marketing to make sure that the world knows I'm an expert. So my subject lines don't need to be that short, because the people that I've got subscribing to my news they want to learn. They want to learn something. So the more specific you can be in that case, the better. So a subject line that's vague and not inclusive of any details is not a good idea. those people are sophisticated enough that they are going to want a subject line that tells them exactly what they're going to read once they open the email. Now, if you're selling a product to a list of people that's never heard of you before, that would be a whole different ballgame, right? So then you get into things like certain words work better than other words, the word sale, the word, these are not things to be afraid of. Another myth that has been disbanded for the time being is that certain words are going to cause you to be automatically thrown into spam folders. That used to be more of a case. Now the truth is that there's a lot more that goes on the back end of the delivery process that has to do with your reputation. Have you sent a lot of emails that bounced? Have you been flagged as spam through the system over and over again? Are you blacklisted? A lot of more sophisticated back end stuff is what's going to determine whether or not you get delivered, not so much whether you put the word sale in your subject line. So don't worry so much about certain words in your subject line. Of course, no profane, and only one exclamation point, but not 5, but the subject line. And then the other thing to remember, if you want to be effective to a group of people that don't know you as well, is your phone. Like on a mobile phone, the characters that display it is short, and so you might consider that while you're sending, if most of your people are opening on the phones. So just things to think about.
And I know we could not connect, but still, what is one of the best email marketing tools, or what do you recommend?
So a lot of the work I do is in Constant Contact and in MailChimp. And I think the reason is that they allow you to design in a way that that is easy. They do have templates you can use, and they're responsive. The way they look, if you test your email system to see how it looks on a phone, they don't all manage to do that well, but you want to be sure, if you're signed up with an email tool and that you're sending, make sure you look at it on your phone. I have an example of something that went a little wrong, and that example of it's somebody built an email that had a headline and a paragraph, and on my desktop it looked great, but on the phone it was all squished and linear. Maybe you've seen something like that, where it had like an inch on either side. So the mobile version of the email they designed didn't work at all in that case, and somebody forgot to check that. So I have found MailChimp and Constant Contact to both be very reliable with both their desktop and mobile displays. Another thing you might think about is the amount of work you're going to need to do with your list, and how many lists you want to have, or if you're going to want to segment, and if you want to automate that segmentation process. If you're going to do a lot of work with your database, then I would recommend this Campaign Monitor. I just found that it was more the way I think when I'm using data. And so I use a PC, I think, in terms of folders, and I keep track of things a certain way, and that's really why I ended up using Campaign Monitor to do those things. So there's 3 that I'm most familiar with.
Okay, let me see. Do you have any helpful hints for nonprofit organizations and newsletters? We send out a weekly newsletter to all of our registrants. How far out should you cover upcoming events, and how frequently should you remind them before the event? I think that came from somebody in my office. I have a funny feeling.
I love it. I got some information on, we were back to email cadence or frequency, and life cycle was a thing if you're in the business of service or products. But for a nonprofit, the fact is that I think 80% of the nonprofits that send a newsletter are doing it monthly. And what I want to add to that, though, is this idea of using the monthly newsletter to begin to segment even your membership, however big or small, into little groups of folks with common interests, or maybe your segment is basically engaged members versus unengaged members, right? So your newsletter is an opportunity to learn about your audience. And so if you think of it that way, then once you deliver the newsletter, you're going to go in and look at the data. You're going to see, oh, it's over time, here's the group of people that has opened our newsletter for the last 4 months every single time, right? And that group of people are your advocates. So then what you do is you create a whole different campaign for your advocates. And you put them in a little group, and they get maybe 1 or 2 more emails each month, right? So they get the newsletter, but they're also your advocates. Your engaged subscribers are going to get more emails because you're going to be able to trust that they're still interested in those emails, because they've engaged in your newsletter. So that might be a way to sort of create momentum. And so when you do have an event or a donor campaign, those are the folks you're going to really push with more frequency to try to get them to share your message and that kind of thing.
Okay, so knowing readers' attention spans are slim, how much content is best to share with an email subscriber? And is the newsletter format still the way to go, or no? Or
the definition, I think, has shifted, but I think the term still is out there, right? So when newsletter first came about in email marketing, it was everybody was trying to transition their print newsletter to an email. They took everything they wrote in a 3-page printed piece and tried to put it in an email, right? And so the discussions were over time. We're like, nobody's reading this. It's overwhelming. Or some were just saving it, coming back to it later, that kind of thing. I think what works better is to send something that has a teaser and then a link. So you can include in a newsletter, if it's only once a month, you can include 3 or 4 or 5 of those to educate and inform your audience, right? An image, a teaser, and a link for more information. An image, a teaser, and a link for more information. If you have a lot of content, that's a better way to go than putting it all into the email. Or you can send more often, but with just one piece of information. And the whole industry is all about trial and error and test. And so maybe what you do is you create an A/B campaign where group A gets 1 newsletter a month that has 5 or 6 pieces of content. And then group B, maybe they're the ones that get 4 emails a month, but with just 1 piece of content, and see how that goes over time, and then determine what works better.
Okay, can your point of purchase e-commerce tool connect directly to MailChimp or Constant Contact so there's no re-entry needed?
Yes. Just need to figure it out. So yes.
It says, I use MailChimp. I would like to utilize drip campaign strategy. I currently have a monthly newsletter and nothing else. I am also not analyzing data. I would like to learn more about the sophistication of these services. It looks like I need to move from the free version to the paid version.
Yeah, you
Yes.
do.
Okay.
Yeah, for automation, I believe MailChimp, most of them, they don't offer automation unless you're on a paid subscription.
In terms of format or template, is it best to keep a consistent look or brand, or change designs?
Generally, you want to be consistent. I would say. I'm just going off of my experience on this case. I didn't find anything through research, but what I would say is that you want to create something that pops, something that's a little different to use as those other emails come up. Like if you're doing an event notification, make sure it doesn't, I wouldn't use the exact same layout as your newsletter. I would make it pop. I'd make it look a little different. And then make sure your event notifications all look the same. And then if you also have a new member, maybe you send an email whenever there's a new member that joins your organization. So that needs to look a little bit different from your newsletter. Just so long as people know right away. I mean, the bottom line is that that people don't have a lot of time. And so being consistent actually helps in that process, that they know, what to expect. And it has been researched that when people know what to expect and when to expect it, they're more likely to be engaged.
So does Constant Contact and MailChimp, do those both have free versions?
Constant Contact no longer has a free version.
Okay.
And the MailChimp does, and it would be, you have to have under 2,000 subscribers on your email list. And then you can't send more than 12,000 emails per month. And you don't have access to some of the features, that we talked about, advanced features. And then you also have to be willing to have the little MailChimp logo at the bottom of all your emails.
And just so, sometimes we have to ask the same question in different ways, but are there any other free or cost-effective email marketing tools that our clients could use?
I didn't find any other free ones, but
Okay.
I didn't scan the entire internet. So
I always suggest just Google it. I mean,
yeah,
and just remember, when you have a free service or a free version, it's not always going to be the best.
Right.
So
right. I guess, and the other way to answer that would be that, I guess since I am in this industry, the tools that I see, they are not free. And MailChimp being the one that offers a free version, that's a pretty good deal.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're coming to a close, and as most people know who signed on to these before, I always ask the speaker, what's the one piece of information that you would like our clients to know or to have?
I'm going to stick with the idea of creating segments to engage your audience. So I think it's time for people to not look at a database and just blast information at them. I would rather you think about this one-to-one relationship that you're having with each individual, and then find a way to communicate specifically to them. And one of the ways you can do that is to divide them into groups of interests or behaviors, so that your message is even more applicable when they get it.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time today to share such valuable information and with our audience. And thank you so much to the audience for being here, engaging and asking questions. I also wanted to take a moment to share some information about one of our upcoming programs, BizFluent, that starts October 25th. This program is meant for business owners who want to learn tangible strategies for growing their business and resources available in the community to help. This course will have 3 sections, aka 3 weeks, that will teach you how to manage marketing, website design, and admin duties. You could register for 1 course, aka week, or multiple to receive a bundling discount. Each course will include hands-on coaching from our staff and volunteers, and action steps you could use to grow your businesses today. Katie will send out additional information in the follow-up email from today, but also feel free to reach out with any questions. And with that, I will close with my piece of advice for us all, and that is to love what you do and do what you love. Everybody, I hope you have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.